The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. In the days of Herod, king of Judea, there was a priest named Zechariah of the priestly division of Abijah. His wife was from the daughters of Aaron, and her name was Elizabeth. Both were righteous in the eyes of God, observing all the commandments and ordinances of the Lord blamelessly. But they had no child, because Elizabeth was barren, and both were advanced in years. Once, when he was serving as priest, in his division's turn before God, according to the practice of the priestly service, he was chosen by lot to enter the sanctuary of the Lord to burn incense. Then, when the whole assembly of the people was praying outside at the hour of the incense offering, the angel of the Lord appeared to him, standing at the right of the altar of incense. Zechariah was troubled by what he saw, and fear came upon him. But the angel said to him, "Do not be afraid, Zechariah, because your prayer has been heard. Your wife Elizabeth will bear you a son, and you shall name him John. And you will have joy and gladness, and many will rejoice at his birth, for he will be great in the sight of the Lord. He will drink neither wine nor strong drink. He will be filled with the Holy Spirit even from his mother's womb, and he will turn many of the children of Israel to the Lord their God. He will go before him in the spirit and power of Elijah, to turn the hearts of fathers toward children, and of the disobedient to the understanding of the righteous, to prepare a people fit for the Lord." Then Zechariah said to the angel, "How shall I know this? For I am an old man, and my wife is advanced in years." And the angel said to him in reply, "I am Gabriel, who stand before God. I was sent to speak to you, to announce to you this good news. But now you will be speechless and unable to talk until the day these things take place, because you did not believe my words, which will be fulfilled at their proper time." Meanwhile, the people were waiting for Zechariah and were amazed that he stayed so long in the sanctuary. But when he came out, he was unable to speak to them, and they realized that he had seen a vision in the sanctuary. He was gesturing to them, but remained mute. Then, when his days of ministry were completed, he went home. After this time, his wife Elizabeth conceived, and she went into seclusion for 5 months, saying, "So the Lord has done for me. So has the Lord done for me at a time when he has seen fit to take away my disgrace before others." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
One thing that we often don't notice, well, I'll speak for myself, that I haven't noticed throughout the Scriptures, particularly the Old Testament, is the number of times that this kind of event is repeated, where a couple are childless, where they're, even in the case of Abraham and Sarah, that a child was promised to them, but never came about. Their faith was tested. What we heard in the first reading was the story of the conception and birth of Samson. Samson, who was one of the judges of the Old Testament. And he was to be highly favored. And yet you read the story of Samson, and he was repeatedly unfaithful to the Lord, seeking his own will and his own profit rather than the Lord's. And on the other hand, even in his great weakness, the Lord brought about a wonderful thing at the moment of his death when he collapsed the temple of the pagans when they were feasting. And Samuel, his mother Hannah, the same way, that same story is told. She was unable to conceive a child in her old age, and finally she does give birth to a son. And of course, Zechariah and Elizabeth here. The tradition is also that Mary's parents were getting up there in years and had no children, and she was also the child of a promise. But one of the things that, and of course the story of the Annunciation of Jesus, but one of the things that is common in every single one of those stories, except the Annunciation, where the angel appears to Mary. Every one of the other stories is characterized by doubt and by fear. And it would seem, reading this story with Zechariah, that the fear is what gave rise to the doubt. That he was afraid at the appearance of the angel. And that fear blocked his belief. Maybe, as we approach Christmas, the thing that we might look forward to, or rather look for in our own hearts, is how much fear actually seems to grab us. Fear of the future, fear of what might happen or what might not happen. And that gives rise to doubt. That gives rise to our weakening faith that God really will fulfill his promises. So perhaps we might want to reflect a little bit on fear as we approach this last week before Christmas, and ask the Lord to take this fear away from our hearts so that we may not have any blockage, we may not have any interference to our welcoming the Lord fully with confidence and with trust in the fulfillment of God's promises.